It's so funny for Trump to do this because he literally does this as well. Like, he's the king of doing this, which is hilarious. Trump is, I think, the last person to be like, oh, she drones on and on. It's like, bro, you did that probably in the Montana rally. You know what I mean? Kamala.
So Tim, we know him by governor, but you'll soon get to know his wife, Gwen, to whom, you know what? Hold on a second. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Here's the thing. We are all in here together. I'm told.
We're going to do the Trump campaign hack as well. Don't worry. It's coming.
An extraordinary number of folks who are here together because we love our country. We're here to fight for our democracy. Which includes respecting the voices that I think that we are hearing from. And let me just say this on topic of what I think I'm hearing over there. Let me just speak to that for a moment, and then I'm going to get back to the business at hand. So let me say, I have been clear. Now is the time to get a ceasefire deal and get the hostage deal done. Now is the time. And the president and I are working around the clock every day to get that ceasefire deal done and bring the hostages home.
I can't believe she invoked the name of Biden when talking about it. It's like, I would literally never bring up Biden's name in this situation. Like, it's not even like, I know she's gonna do lip service, but even then it's like, don't bring up Biden. Let's just don't bring up Biden. By the way, even this middle of the ground response, which is reiterating America's commitment to its own ceasefire deal that Israel refuses to recognize, acknowledge, follow through on, got the biggest applause. People will take anything at this point.
So I respect your voices, but we are here to now talk about this race in 2024.
Kamala Harris called for a ceasefire in Gaza and for the release of Israeli hostages during a campaign speech Friday night. The Vice President and former President Donald Trump held dueling Friday night rallies in the West. Following their debut in Pennsylvania this week, Harris and her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, made their immigration pitch in battleground border state Arizona last night. During his Montana rally, Trump hammered Harris as the architect of the border crisis. Natalie Brand is in Phoenix with the latest from the campaign trail. Natalie, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. This is a crucial battleground state and a key target for both campaigns, with polls showing the race neck and neck here. Vice President Harris, campaigning in Arizona, told her supporters last night she's the underdog. That's a message she's been reiterating on the trail this week.
Across the West, dueling rallies with Vice President Kamala Harris and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz rallying thousands in Glendale, Arizona Friday night.
Our immigration system is broken, and we know what it takes to fix it. But Donald Trump does not want to fix this problem.
And former President Donald Trump on the stump in Bozeman, Montana.
We're going to evict crazy Kamala.
The issue of immigration in the southern border top of mind for both campaigns.
She wants to allow millions of people to pour into our border through an invasion, using an invasion process.
The former president has proposed what he says would be the largest deportation operation in U.S. history.
That's not a solution. That's not what's in the best interest of our country. I can tell you, immigrants are an essential part of the economy in our country, and particularly in Arizona.
Mesa Mayor John Giles has thrown his support behind Vice President Harris. He's among the Republicans in the state and nationally who say they can't support Trump.
Most of my party and most of the country continues to be politically in the middle. And we're less and less are we hearing voices from the middle.
With an eye on appealing to moderate Republicans and independents, the Harris campaign is stepping up its ground game in Arizona. Harris and Walz visited one of the state's dozen campaign offices. Arizona narrowly went for President Biden in 2020, helped in part by support from Latino voters. While Vice President Harris received a rare endorsement from LULAC, the country's largest Latino civil rights organization, DACA recipient Jose Patino says he wants to hear more specifics on immigration reform.
Do you think that the Harris-Walz ticket has the support of the Latino community right now, or is it still kind of divided?
It's a little divided. It's the Democratic Party, at least, has failed a lot of promises that didn't meet in the last 4 years.
Today, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz rally in Nevada, another key Southwest battleground with a large Latino population. Last night, she received an endorsement from the powerful culinary union there. Former President Trump, meanwhile, is expected to attend fundraisers in Colorado and Wyoming. Michelle?
Natalie Brand, thank you.
Grossly incompetent, and in my opinion, has a very low IQ. But we'll find out about her IQ during the debate, okay? Let's find out about her IQ. So, you know, we have this great system. I want to show.
Oh, my God. Trump plays viral gaffe of Supercoach Kamala Harris at Jumbotron and Montana campaign rally.
You just one other thing, please. Do you mind putting it up, please? Thank you.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
So you're now no longer are you necessarily keeping those private files in some file cabinet that's locked in the basement of the house. It's on your laptop, and it's then therefore up here in this cloud that exists above us, right? The Caribbean nations, island nations, in the Western Hemisphere. That is where the Caribbean is. We are also in the Western Hemisphere. They are our neighbors. I am here, standing here on the northern flank, on the eastern flank, talking about what we have in terms of the eastern flank. I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been, you know? Space is exciting. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. We will work together and continue to work together to address these issues, to tackle these challenges, and to work together as we continue.
It's so funny for Trump to do this because he literally does this as well. Like, he's the king of doing this, which is hilarious. Trump is, I think, the last person to be like, oh, she drones on and on. It's like, bro, you did that probably in the Montana rally. You know what I mean? Like,
continue to work. Do you ban plastic straws? I think we should. Yes. I mean, look, I'm going to be honest. It's really difficult to drink out of a paper straw when if you don't gulp it down immediately, it starts to bend. Yes. And then, you know, the little thing catches it, and then, you know, so we got to kind of perfect that one a little bit more. Do you know, okay, a bit of a history lesson. Do you know that the women's teams were not allowed to have brackets until 2022? So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's
wait, what did she say that was wrong with the North Korea?
States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. AI is kind
of... she said the Republic of North Korea instead of saying Republic of Korea.
Fancy things. First of all,
I got excited. I was like, damn, she's unveiling an important relationship.
Letters. It means artificial intelligence. As a woman, there's a balance to be struck between being tough
and being a turn that off.
Oh. I think my favorite is when she's talking about Ukraine. Vegas rally crowd. Yes, we know. Lots of big crowds, okay? But some empty seats. Latest on the Harris and Trump campaigns.
Political headlines that we're following this morning, and joining us are ABC White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks and contributing political correspondent Rachel Bade. Good morning to both of you. Mary Alice, let's start with you because we know Republicans have been criticizing Kamala Harris for not coming out, doing a news conference and speaking to the media, answering questions. Also, we've seen Harris and Walz presenting themselves as these warriors, this joyful part of the campaign. What is the strategy here?
Look, I think there's legit criticism there that she hasn't done a press conference yet, hasn't sat for a formal interview. So much has happened in 2.5 weeks. There are so many questions. I mean, we're reporters. We'd like more press conferences all the time. And she's going to have to define her campaign more. She's going to have to flesh out some of her policy positions. But that strategy you're talking about, that joyful warrior presence, that excitement, leaning into the laughing, it has been effective out there on the campaign trail. Amazing how quickly she's kind of branded herself like that, blunting criticism that she laughs too much. She looks and sounds different than President Biden. I think that it's reminding Democrats they don't have to feel that sense of doom that, frankly, a lot of them felt about the Biden campaign. But it's also letting her draw a contrast to Trump without talking so much about Trump. Because I think every time she sounds joyful or happy, you're sort of reminded that he can sound mean and nasty. Like I'm thinking about in his press conference when he criticized her for not giving a press conference, he didn't just say she hasn't taken questions. He said she's not smart enough to take questions. And it's that kind of language that so many swing voters are just put off by.
And Rachel, Republicans have been watching this VP pick because they wanted to see, would this be a reset for the Trump campaign? So how's that going?
If I had $1 for every time I heard a Republican say Trump needs a reset, be pretty wealthy right now. It's not going well. And the reason is because Republicans are asking Trump, you know this, Rachel, you've covered him for a long time, to actually fight his basic instincts, right? It would stop with the personal, stop with the schoolyard taunts like Mary Alice was just talking about, and focus on policy. There is this belief amongst Republicans up and down the ballot that even though Harris has erased this lead that Trump had over Biden pretty much all year, that she is actually in some ways a richer target for Republicans, politically speaking. And that's because in the past she's supported some policy positions that are rather unpopular with swing voters, things like Medicare for all, banning fracking, supporting a mandatory gun buyback program, and border crossing. So Republicans want Trump to focus on that. Instead, what do you see this week when he comes out and does his press conference? He falsely claims that it was unconstitutional for Democrats to replace Biden atop the ticket. He falsely claims that his crowd sizes were larger than Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. And J.D. Vance goes out there and starts Harris's running mate for his military record. This is not the campaign Republicans want to see Trump run. This is not the campaign they think he can win on. And that's why you see the Wall Street Journal editorial board, which is very conservative, running headlines like this: will Donald Trump blow another election?
Wow.
All right, we're going to go from one Rachel to another because Rachel Scott.
Am I correct in getting 2016 vibes from this? It seems that the reporters are starting to dismiss the possibility of Trump winning. No, it's not 2016 vibes at all. If anything, it's closer to the Trump administration resembling Hillary Clinton in 2016, thinking that they got this in the bag, or at least they thought that they had it in the bag and are still running on those fumes. There is definitely a lot of momentum on the Harris-Walz ticket. There's definitely a lot of momentum there. They're not wrong to acknowledge that. It's just a matter of how well the Harris-Walz ticket continues that momentum by leaning into progressive, by saying that these progressive policies are not unpopular or radical. Trump is no longer an outsider. People have made up their minds on him. They made up their minds and they dug their heels in so hard that he got shot and it didn't even move him in the polls, dude. That's largely because he did not use that clean slate that he got in a way that would benefit him and maybe moderate his positions a little bit more. But it's not looking good for Trump. Now that might change.
Scott, you've been covering the Trump campaign very closely, and we see this new Marquette University Law School poll showing Harris leading Trump now. What is the state of the race right now?
It is neck and neck. But as Rachel just mentioned, you have Harris making these very big gains, really erasing sort of Trump's edge among key demographics, especially in some of these battleground states. One of the things that I found very interesting from this poll was looking at the enthusiasm gap. And when we talk about former President Donald Trump really wanting to run against President Biden, it's because a lot of his campaign advisors were looking at the crosstabs in those polls and saw not very much enthusiasm among Democrats when it came to President Biden. It was just at like 34% around May. Now it's 55%. So when Mary Alice is talking about Democrats being energized, right, that is not what the Trump campaign wants to see. On the other end of that, though, Trump is still on firm ground when it comes to critical issues, immigration, the border. He has very strong polling on those issues, and that is exactly why Republicans really want him to focus on the issues, not so much the issues.
And it's been fascinating to see how it's a whole new race. Mary Alice, let's talk about the website for a second and Tim Walz, because there was this slight tweak that some folks noticed because the campaign initially called Walz a retired command sergeant major. Now it says that he rose to the rank of command sergeant major. So it's a very, very slight tweak, but Republicans have really been at his military service.
Yeah, exactly. But taking a step back here, it has been 20 years since there has been a veteran on both the Democrat and Republican ticket. You have to go back to Kerry versus George W. Bush. You know, before it was often a prerequisite military service for running for office. How remarkable that the country has sort of swung away from that, but now has two veterans, two enlisted men running at the top of the ticket. Like, I think that some people will care about the fact that Walz seemed to sort of misrepresent. He said that he, you know, was in war when he never saw active combat. You know, the campaign now says that he misspoke. But I actually think that more Americans will care that there are two veterans. Walz served in uniform for 24 years. You're right, they changed the campaign website to no longer say retired, because even though he did rise to that, he rose to that rank, he didn't serve in that position long enough to formally retire at that rank. But look, he was also, when he got out, and he was really outspoken against the war in Iraq. He was consistent with that position. I do think that's something he'll be able to talk about. Frankly, a lot of Americans were consistent in their opposition to the Iraq war. And I talked to a lot of veterans, some major veterans organizations across the country that were really excited about that pick just because of the work that Walz did when he was in Congress fighting.
All right, we gotta watch the GOAT talk about Walz now. We gotta watch the GOAT talk about Walz on CNN. My liege, my GOAT, my ledge, my legend, Jesse the Body Ventura. That's right, folks. Jesse the Body Ventura went on CNN to talk about my Lord Tim Walz. Where is the video? Hold on. Jesse the Mind Ventura since the gubernatorial run.
Dad, and some of you know him in here, you a chain-smoking Korean War era veteran, cared about his community, but 2 days after I turned 17, he took me down to join the Army National Guard. And for 24 years, I proudly wore that uniform.
Presumptive Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, touting his service in the National Guard at a campaign rally tonight in Arizona. It comes as Republican VP candidate Senator J.D. Vance criticizes Walz's record, accusing him of abandoning his National Guard unit in 2005 to run for Congress before a deployment to Iraq. Well, joining me now, former independent governor of Minnesota, Jesse Ventura. He endorsed Walz in his recent run for governor. Governor Ventura, thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'm really eager to hear your take on this because you are a former Navy SEAL. You served in Vietnam. And I have to ask you what you think of this from the Trump bans ticket on Governor Walz's military service.
Well, Laura, I'll tell you what I think. I think it's shameful. I think it's shameful that a veteran would another veteran. Governor Walz served honorably for 24 years in the National Guard. After 20 years, you are eligible to retire at any time you deem necessary. They talk about him missing his deployment. Well, maybe Mr. Vance should ask the real question. What is the National Guard doing deploying to a foreign country in a foreign war? Well, let's go into history and figure out how that happened. That happened because George W. Bush and Cheney went into the Iraq War based on lies, no weapons of mass.
Wow, you guys say base when he says it? I've been saying this for the past week. Chat, y'all. I mean, he's the GOAT. He is the GOAT. He says it way sicker than me. But it's like, but he's the body and the mind. He's everything.
Destruction, no ties to Al-Qaeda, nothing with 9/11, and they ran out of bodies. They needed more bodies. They couldn't implement a draft. That would be political suicide. So what George Bush did was sign an executive order sending the National Guard into foreign. National Guard is not for foreign deployment. Their name says what they do. They guard our nation from within. So this hogwash about Governor Walz missing at the...
I can't begin to tell, like, I can't tell you how much I love this man. And also, I unironically would have voted for RFK Jr. if RFK Jr. made Jesse Ventura his VP. I said it back then. There was a moment where RFK was like, I might make Jesse Ventura my VP. If he had done that, I would have voted for RFK Jr. I would have, I'm not even kidding. I cannot begin to explain to you how serious I am about this, okay? I don't give a okay? I love him. I love this man, and I would have literally voted for that brain-wormed freak. That brain-wormed freak, specifically because he put Jesse Ventura as his goddamn VP. I'm not even joking right now.
Deployment. Not only that, he's 24 years. He's an E9. I deployed twice. We never even had an E9 with us when we deployed. E9s are not going to walk the point. They're not going to be involved in any combat whatsoever. They're figureheads, being the most senior enlisted within their company, and that's what it's all about. So I think that Vance is doing a disservice to himself and a disservice.
They'll never make me hate you, Jesse.
To the United States Marine Corps. I know a lot of great Marines, and Marines show respect. And Vance is not showing respect. And let's continue. Who does he have respect for? Donald Trump, the biggest draft dodger from the Vietnam War.
Can you say you're not actually serious? You're scaring my lib brother who's listening in the background. Your lib brother should be listening intently when the Jesse, the body, and the mind Ventura is speaking, because he's speaking facts.
The rich white boy.
He should literally, dude, the DNC should have him speak. Like, he is the perfect foil to Hulk Hogan. He literally is the perfect foil to Hulk Hogan. Obviously, they wouldn't let him do that because, like, he will say some shit about the Democrats. Like, he will, fortunately for us, and unfortunately for the Dems, he would cook a little too hard. Like, his would be talking about Israel probably. I don't know. He's just, but he is the perfect counter to Hulk Hogan in the sense that, Hulk Hogan ratted Jesse Ventura out to Vince when he was trying to unionize. It is a perfect story. Hulk Hogan literally is a rat who outed Jesse the Body Ventura to Vince when he was trying to unionize.
Boy who bought his way out of it. I come from South Minneapolis. My friends and I didn't get out of it. We either got drafted or we enlisted. I know 6 or 7 or 8 of my friends. Donald Trump was your typical rich white boy who didn't have to serve in Vietnam because he could buy his way out of it. And that's who Vance is standing with, this guy who leads from the rear.
Then why do you think, given all that you've described, from the politics, the history, and of course the person who's on the top of the ticket who has been criticized for the bone spurs reason for not going to serve. And frankly, I have not served. I am a civilian and have the ultimate reverence for those who have. And thank you for your service. So why do you think?
This is the other thing. It's like, I don't. Okay, I don't. Jesse might get mad at me, but I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, great. Oh, I have the ultimate reverence for those who served. It's like, bro, it's just a job, dude. It's literally a job. That's it. It's a job. We just dupe the poor into going and up their bodies so they can get the same communications degree that everyone else gets with the GI Bill so that they can go into the same job market that's cheeks and not be able to pay rent in the same exact way. But this time they did like 5 years of getting blasted and have irreparable damage on their bodies and lose their minds while picking cereal at Walmart. Okay? It sucks.
this is the line of attack to choose politically. Obviously, it would offend.
Take, man. Oh, shut up. This is the top of the hour ad break debate. I know this already. You're a 26-month subscriber. You know this is the same thing that I've said about veterans and the unconditional loyalty and reverence that we offer veterans all the time. It's pandering, okay? It's pandering. If you love our veterans, okay? If you love our veterans, then make sure that ain't nobody else is going to Israel to defend Israel right now, okay? That's the best thing you can do. Change the entire military jobs program from one that participates in death and destruction and the extraction of natural resources in the third world at the behest of American corporations to one that actually, to one that actually builds roads and okay? Also, yes, you were hitting me with a two-parter like I called you out, and that's why you got a one-day ban.
And alienate voters on one level and also people who have served the armed forces on the other?
I don't know. You'd have to ask Mr. Vance that. I don't understand his motive whatsoever, how he could turn against a fellow veteran. You know, there's kind of an unwritten rule amongst us veterans. You don't criticize another veteran. Not every veteran's a knuckle dragger. And I'm not going to define knuckle dragger because if you've been in the service, you'll know what a knuckle dragger is. But, you know, as a frogman in the United States Navy, my job was to ensure the Marines could get to shore to do their job. We went in ahead of them. We went in before them to ensure the Marines could land. And his point of being a Marine like he is and then criticizing the governor after 24 years of service, it's despicable on his behalf for doing that. And I hope all veterans feel like I do about it. You don't criticize another veteran and how they served, whether they're a cook or whatever they do. They all have a job to do. And if you're going to be successful, everybody has to do their job and pitch in to be successful.
Ventura is forever my hero for making a dead Navy SEAL pay up. Oh, yeah, it was awesome. Hey, man, should have thought about it before your should have thought about it before his thought to slander the GOAT. Okay, can't do it to him like that. He made the widow of Chris Kyle pay him. American Sniper Chris Kyle, notorious liar. Okay, notorious liar. Not the widow, the estate. Sorry, you're right. Not the widow directly, but the estate that the widow is getting money from. He also dunked on Jesse Waters. That dude, look. Wait, what? Jesse Ventura interview? Hulk Hogan ratted me to Vince McMahon. No, I wanna hear it. Do you have the? Where is it? I want to see. Yeah, there's no way his ass going. There's no way his ass going off the DNC, bro. Come on. The U.S. looks away when allies like Israel violate human rights, but we go to when other countries commit the same crimes. The U.S. should hang its head in shame. Human rights violations are human rights violations. October 4th, 2018. And before people yelled, this is when Russia Today was like, I mean, it was still weird, but like they also had, you know, some pretty solid reporting as well. This is when Russia Today was actually trying its like anti-imperialism, America KKK must fall apart at 7 p.m. And then at 8 p.m. they'd be doing like some right-wing commentary. This is way before Russia Today became like an entirely right-wing operation. Here, this is
the numbers speak for themselves.
Were you high when you sued Chris Kyle's widow?
Was I high? You know, that's a question, and I expect it from someone from Fox.
Just
no.
A serious question.
No, it ain't. No, it ain't, because I never sued the widow. I sued him.
Okay, well, she's suffering a lot of pain right now.
No, she isn't.
How do you know that?
Because insurance pays for it all. She hasn't paid 1 cent. How do I know it? It's my case.
So you stand by that?
The case got overturned because the truth came out. Insurance is paying for all of it. It isn't costing his family a cent. That's the way legal works if you do your homework.
Would you apologize to her?
No, she should apologize to me for the lie that her husband told about me. Why would I apologize? I didn't do anything. You only apologize if you've done something wrong, pal.
Pal. Dude, I can't. Oh, God, I love him so much, bro. I love him so much. He's the best and brightest that white people have offered thus far, okay? He's the GOAT.
So well said. I think it's capturing the sentiment of so many people who are watching this, and there is the terms I can think of as kind of an ick factor of having people at each other and the nuance and knowing the fact that everyone has served. And what's the number? Like less than 1% of people have protected this nation over time. I do wonder, given your strong feelings and the way in which he has been attacked in this way, and he is addressing it in various ways, it won't be the end of the story. You have endorsed traditionally third-party candidates, although you did endorse him for his run for governor. Do you intend to endorse the Harris-Walz ticket now?
Well, I'll tell you this. I met with Bobby Kennedy last winter. We met for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. Apparently, I came in second. He chose his woman, Shannon.
Dude, RFK would have literally unironically gotten my commitment. What a dumbass. Fucked up. You fucked up, RFK.
His running mate. Bobby's still a friend of mine, but I'll tell you where I stand right now. I'm going to be selfish. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to see the United States elect its first black president.
Yes, I love Jesse Ventura. I do, yes. And no, I don't care that he's also a bit of a conspiracy nutter. Okay, I don't care. You will never make me hate him, okay? I've often maintained the position that everybody's allowed to have like one kooky thing, okay? And he's got a bunch of them, but I don't care.
President. I didn't think that could ever happen. And they even reelected him. Well, now I'm going to be selfish again. I've only got a few elections to go. I'm 73 years old now, so the window's closing. I want to be alive to see the first woman president of the United States of America and the first woman commander-in-chief, and we've got her right now.
He's a little too libbed up, bro. Bro, chill. Jesse, chill. Talk about Israel, Jesse. What are you doing?
Governor, thank you so much for sharing your views on this issue.
God damn it. He just said that so quick. He said that so close to me, just glazing him. I should have pre-watched this. Didn't know he was going to live it up this hard, bro. Fucking calm down, you know? Jesus Christ. I still love him. I still love him.
I think a lot of people have been very interested to hear what you have said. So you are officially endorsing the Harris-Walz ticket, excuse me.
Yes, I want to see a woman president. It's time for a woman president. We men have screwed it up enough. And you know what? Maybe we'll finally get some legitimate thing on the abortion issue. You know how to solve abortion? Hold men responsible. They're the ones ultimately responsible for all abortions. If you hold men responsible, then you'll see a big change in the abortion rules.
What does that mean to hold them responsible?
They're responsible for every abortion that could take place. They are the aggressor. Sex tells you that.
You mean in terms of
what is he saying, bro? What is my man saying, dude? Fine, he still cooks. He still cooks.
There can't be a baby without a man's involvement. That's what I'm telling you. So until you hold the men responsible for impregnating women, you're not going to get any type of legitimate type of law passed. You got to hold men responsible.
I get what he's trying to say. He's just saying that, like, it's because abortion seemingly primarily affects women's bodily autonomy that men get to make these decisions on behalf of women so callously, and that they also play a role, but I just don't see the vision. I don't know how he would, like, cause men to also be responsible. I don't know how he would do that. I still love him, though, so I don't care. He's my GOAT still.
Responsible for the pregnancies of women because they are the ones responsible, not the woman, the man.
It'll be interesting to see how people evaluate that. On the one hand, thinking about autonomy and agency over one's body, and also the notion.
It's so funny. She's like genuinely confused as to she's just rolling with it, but she's like, you can tell. She's like, yeah, that's interesting.
Of assigning responsibility on the other. Well, I'll be curious to see how that factors out.
Laura, you know what else I stand for?
What, Governor?
I don't stand for a minimum wage. I stand for a maximum wage. If you can't live on $1 million a month,
she said,
something's wrong with you.
Well, I'd like to sign up for the $1 million
think
a
about
month
it a
plan.
moment. If you make $12 million a year, what would you want for? What would you possibly need? The point I'm making is there shouldn't be any billionaires, and I'll tell you why. Because nobody works hard enough to get.
He brought me back. He brought me back. My goat. He brought me back. You could buy literally all the subscriptions at the top of the hour for $1 million a month. You know what I mean? You wouldn't need anything else. He's right. He's cooking. He's right. My goat. He's talking about you? Yeah. No, totally. Me and my billions of dollars that I've garnered by serving 3-minute ad breaks at the top of the hour. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Oh, and Gila, thank you for the 10 gift the subs.
Get $1 billion, and my hardest job I ever did was going through Navy SEAL training, and I was making $4 a day. And you're going to tell me a billionaire worked harder than I did? Bull crap.
Is there anything more to say? Governor Jesse Ventura,
Nope.
Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I've been eager to hear your opinion, and I'm glad I heard it tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
62,000 people watching the PBS broadcast of the Harris-Walz campaign. That's craziness. Let's look at where Harris and Trump stand in key states. According to new polling, things are looking up for Harris.
President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, will take the stage at a rally in Las Vegas. They'll be wrapping up a nearly week-long tour through some of the most critical battleground states of this election. The Harris campaign has seen a jolt of voter enthusiasm in the last 3 weeks since President Biden dropped out of the race and she became the party's presumptive nominee. She's new polling showing it's not just vibes. CNN's Harry Enton here to break that polling data down for us. Harry, what do these new New York Times polls show? I've heard from a lot of people about these today, a lot of people with eyes on these.
Yeah, a lot of people. I think this was the type of polling we've been waiting for, right? We've seen that national.
Damn, Harry was in the pocket deep for fucking Shapiro. He was talking about how great Shapiro is. What happened? He was wrong. I was right.
Polling showing movement towards Kamala Harris. Now we get some swing state polling showing something very similar. All right, these are in the Great Lake battleground states. We're talking about Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. You go back to May, what'd you see? You saw that a pretty tight race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, but you see more red than blue on the screen. Of course, all three of these states were states that Joe Biden carried last time around. You saw a 3-point lead for Trump in Pennsylvania, one well within the margin of error in Wisconsin, and then a 1-point lead for Biden, Michigan. But look at where we are now. This is the type of movement the Harris campaign has been looking for. Look in Pennsylvania, a 4-point advantage. Wisconsin, a 4-point advantage. Michigan, a 4-point advantage. And in all three of these states, we see clear movement towards the Democratic nominee. I will point out we're still in no clear leader land in this particular instance, but the Harris campaign has to love this movement. 7 points in Pennsylvania, 5 points in Wisconsin, and 3 points in the great state of Michigan, all moving towards Kamala Harris. And she has the advantage in all three, although, again, no clear leader within the margin of error.
Right. Important to keep that context in mind. Now, these aren't the only swing state polls that are showing Trump slipping.
That's exactly right. You know, if we were just talking about the New York Times, Siena College, I'd say, you know what, hold on a second, hold on. You know me, Jessica. You know that I like to see confirmation of an individual poll. So there were Ipsos polls that were conducted in these same states. And I want you to look, this is an aggregate, of course, across Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. You go back to June, what'd you see? You saw Trump on average up by 2 points. Very similar to what we saw in the New York Times Siena College poll. Look at where we are now, the August margin between Harris and Trump, and look at what we see here. We see Harris up by 2 points. Again, no clear leader, but that 4-point movement, very similar to what we saw in the New York Times Siena College poll. And this is what we're seeing across the polling data. It's not just one poll. It's not just one pollster. It's across pollsters. It's across polls. And of course, in these Great Lake battleground states that are going to be so important, we're seeing this 4-point move with, instead of seeing a small Republican lead, we're seeing a small Democratic Party lead. And in this particular case, a small Kamala Harris lead over Donald Trump, the reverse of what we were just seeing just 2 months ago.
Yeah, and of course, the reason we care about these particular states so much is because of the Electoral College and how this all is decided in the fall. What does this data mean for the Electoral College more broadly and how that's playing out?
Yeah, so look, this is what we're talking about, the race to 270 electoral votes. And I want to give Kamala Harris those Great Lake battleground states where she was leading, although within the margin of error. We're talking about Wisconsin, we're talking Michigan, we're talking Pennsylvania. If we give those three states to Kamala Harris, even if she loses in Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia, which are far from guarantees. These, of course, were 3 states that Joe Biden carried last time around, but in which the Democrats have been falling a little bit short of their 2020 numbers, at least in recent data, at least when Joe Biden's in the race. But if we give Harris Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, look at that. She doesn't even need these Sunbelt battleground states. She gets to exactly 270 electoral votes. So the fact is, when you see those polls in those Great Lake battleground states, and you see that Harris round from basically, you know, Donald Trump being slightly ahead to now Harris being slightly ahead, that could be the entire ballgame. Even if she loses down south, if she wins up north, that's enough. That gets her to exactly 270 electoral votes. And that's why those New York Times Siena College polls, as well as those Ipsos polling data, why it means so much.
And so here we are. We're probably, I'm ballparking it here, 80-something days away from the election at this point. How much?
Yeah, good thing that she went with like an actual solid Midwest pick instead of Josh Shapiro. Just saying.
How much can things change from now until the election?
Yeah, so we've seen a lot of movement in the last 2 to 3 months, and I just want to note that the movement that we've seen towards Harris could easily reverse itself. And the reason I say that is because how far off were the polls on August 10th compared to the final margin in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin? On average in 2016, the average from the polls at this point to the final margin, 9 points across those 3 states. How about in 2020? Look at that. The average movement from the final poll, from the polls at this point to the final margin, look at that, 5 points. So the fact is, yes, Kamala Harris may be slightly ahead right now. Again, though, a race in which there's no clear leader within the margin of error, but that could easily turn around in the final, let's say, a little bit less than 3 months to go. There's still a lot of campaign to go. We got a Democratic National Convention to go. We probably have at least one more debate to go. So still a lot can change. But at the end of the day, Jessica, if you are the Democratic Party,
a lot can change, like war with Iran that Israel brings us into. I'm just saying, we definitely should leave that out in the open. I think we definitely shouldn't nip that in the bud. That's certainly not a glaringly obvious weakness that is just like sitting there. It is a loaded gun. It's Chekhov's gun, okay? I feel like poll differences, the final margins, are the result of polls allowing for don't know responses, while elections inherently don't count those because they're not votes, or they turn into votes for one or the other. Harris is losing Latino voters and Palestine voters will cost this election. She should keep doing lip service and pro-Trump policy ads. Hillary Clinton. Yeah, I think I've said it already. Look, immigration stance needs to change for the Sun Belt, Palestine for the Rust Belt. Palestine across the board plays well for Gen Z. Like, whoa, what the fuck? Why is my camera's being extra wonky lately? Stop dooming, dude. Generic Dem destroys Trump. A generic Democrat on a matchup is very different than an actual Democrat with discernible policies, charisma, aura, statements that you can listen to. She is the generic Democrat. But now it's entirely in her hands to either win or make this a close election. Can we talk on Florida, please? We don't bring the state up enough. Obama won it. No, we will not be talking about the state of Florida. The only thing that is like, the state of Florida is still going to go deep Republican, okay? And there is a ballot initiative on there, if I'm not mistaken, that is for protecting abortion. And even then, the state of Florida is going to do what it always does. They are going to vote by like 85% margins on preserving abortion. They're going to vote by like 90%, 99% of the voters are going to vote to legalize marijuana. And then they're going to end up voting by like 8% for Donald Trump. Okay? Because they're not single issue voters. What are you talking about? I just completely described to you. First of all, most Americans are not single issue voters because they just vote on partisan lines. They vote because their daddy voted for the party. They vote because their mommy voted for the party. They vote because they voted for the party. That's it. And the 20% that actually do vote on policy issues, right, or ideological reasons, do actually vote as single issue voters. Okay? Maybe some of the people that actually vote along the party line are also still most likely single issue voters, like guns or, I don't know, being racist. So you're wrong on that. But also, why in the ever-loving fuck would you describe Florida as the reasonable voter? Like, if you're trying to make an argument about, like, those voters in Florida, are reasonable voters. That's why, because they're not single issue voters. It is the worst fucking voter to point to, as I'm in the process of describing to you how fucking unhinged Floridian median voters are. Florida voters are the most unhinged motherfuckers you've ever seen, okay? What I just told you, the margins in which they vote for a fucking insanely progressive ballot measure, like felony vote restoration, that's massively fucking progressive. They voted for that shit by double the margins of like the down ballot races for the Republican Party and Donald Trump and fucking it was Donald Trump was on the ticket, right? At that time, it wasn't like a Ron DeSantis gubernatorial. I think they were both on it, actually. That was the first time around. Yeah, Florida 64. I fucking told you. I made up the numbers in my head. Florida 64% for weed, 69% for abortion, according to polls.